Welcome to today's video, Isaiah 61 verse 10 explained. I will greatly rejoice in the Lord, my soul shall be joyful in my God. For he hath clothed me with the garments of salvation, he hath covered me with the robe of righteousness, as a bridegroom decketh himself with ornaments, and as a bride adorneth herself with her jewels. This verse is a powerful statement of joy and gratitude from the prophet Isaiah. It expresses a deep, personal rejoicing in God, not just on the surface, but coming from the soul. Isaiah is overwhelmed with gladness because of what God has done for him, and he wants to share this joy with others. The verse begins with the prophet declaring that he will greatly rejoice in the Lord. This is not a small or half-hearted happiness. It is a celebration that comes from knowing God and experiencing His goodness. The source of this joy is not based on temporary or worldly circumstances, but on the unchanging love and salvation provided by God. Isaiah says his soul will be joyful in God because God has clothed him with the garments of salvation. The image here is that of being completely wrapped or covered by something valuable and protective. To be clothed with the garments of salvation means God has provided complete rescue, protection, and deliverance. It is not something Isaiah could have done for himself. God is the one who dresses him in salvation, showing that our redemption is a gift, not something we earn. The next part says God has covered him with the robe of righteousness. This means God has given Isaiah, and by extension all believers, a new status and identity. Righteousness means being made right with God. The robe covers all shame, guilt, and sin. When God sees us, He sees the righteousness that He has provided, not our failures. This robe is like a uniform that identifies us as belonging to God, set apart and forgiven. Isaiah then uses two wedding images to describe this transformation. He says he is like a bridegroom dressed up in ornaments, and a bride adorned with her jewels. In ancient times, weddings were joyful, elaborate celebrations, and both the bride and the groom would wear their finest clothing and accessories. These images show the beauty, honor, and specialness of what God gives to His people. Just as a wedding day is a day of new beginnings and happiness, receiving God's salvation is a time of new spiritual beginnings and overwhelming joy. This verse is not just about Isaiah's personal experience. It points forward to what God would do for all people through Jesus Christ. The garments of salvation and the robe of righteousness are made available to everyone who puts their faith in Jesus. Through Jesus' sacrifice, believers are cleansed from sin, covered in God's righteousness, and made part of God's family. The joy that Isaiah feels is the same joy offered to anyone who accepts the gift of salvation. Isaiah 61 verse 10 teaches us to find our deepest joy in what God has done for us. It encourages us to see ourselves as beloved, forgiven, and honored by God. It also reminds us to celebrate and share this good news with others, just as Isaiah did.